All right, guys, welcome back to the pre-Christmas edition of the Sean Fontana podcast. Last week, we had Luke on board and the positive responses were amazing. So again, we've got Luke back on because we want to talk about the running social media apps, and they are Garmin Connect, there's Strava, there's Training Peaks, there's all these fun apps that we use to contrast and compare our training. But as coaches that both train athletes, we want to share some of our knowledge that we share with our athletes in this podcast today. We want to go through the Strava, the good, the bad, the ugly. Luke, how are we doing, buddy?
Good to be here again, and it's nice to hear that there were some positive responses last week. So yeah, looking forward to getting stuck into some good conversation.
Absolutely. I was blown away by the people who replied through Instagram, they replied through Facebook Messenger, clients and athletes who, WhatsApped, messaged, even when we were catching up, just speaking about how well the podcast went, how they thought that what we were saying was actually what they think in their head, that they thought we were inside their head, which was amazing. And I think because we were very honest in what we were, how we were feeling and how we approach certain things, I think it gave an honest and a realistic account for those guys who were listening to help their performance and their mindset, and then also in their training. So the advice you were given was absolutely spot on, mate. So that's why, again, we're back on. Everybody loved it. Hopefully we can give everybody another great positive account of, what we feel about training apps, training devices, the good side, the bad side, and our advice on how we use them as well. But before that, how's your week been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been a good week. It's kind of, I guess, the last week, like kind of breaking down for Christmas a little bit. So yeah, just getting a few things finished up this week, and then looking forward to being able to get a little bit of a break over Christmas to some extent. Still be cracking on with some stuff, obviously, but yeah, it's been a good week. It's gone quick, but I think I've been saying that for about the last 8 months. So yeah, it has gone quick.
Yeah, that's what I was saying that to one of my clients last night in the gym, and it was, March. Lockdown was in March, I think the 21st or the 23rd of March, I can remember. And, at some points it's felt like it's dragged in, and then other points it's went by, like you just, wow, we've went through, when January, February, March, third month, we went through 9 months, like we're through 9 months already, like how quick time has flown, even though sometimes it stood still. And then other times you're just going, we're about to celebrate the new year, we're about to have Christmas. And at that point, are you ready for Christmas? Have you got all your presents in?
Not at all. Not at all. No, I haven't. I've done a little bit of Christmas shopping. I'm looking over at the few that I've got. Yeah, but there's still some stuff to do. So I'll get stuck into that next week. Yeah. How's your week been?
Oh, mate, if I tell you, what I'll say is when it rains, it pours. So the start of the week, we've moved house. So I'm in my studio. I'll call it my studio. Look at my line up there as well. I love it. And nice. I've got little Simba, but I'm just going to move this quick. I'll show you. Get little Simba there. Right, me man. There we go. There's Simba. And we moved house a couple of months back, but the flat we were in before was ground floor, and it had they basically took up all the carpets, and it's just that natural wood, buffed it down, painted it, but there was a lot of gaps, and those flats used to, back in the old days, would store coal underneath. So what happens is, I think there was a draft coming up, and because of the rain and stuff, Britain's humid, the moisture was coming into the house, and it was going through all the wood, the furniture. So when we were moving, we noticed the mold and stuff. Like, all right, so we get this mold killer, brushed it all off. We thought we'd killed it, brought it in here, and then at the start of the week there, we just caught it on the corner of our bedroom. We saw a wee bit of, I thought it was a shadow, but it was actually mold. So we pulled the furniture out, and up the back of the chipboard was just disgusting. Like, it was all mold. It jumped onto the wall, and I was like, oh no. So we've had to actually throw all our furniture, wardrobe, our two test drawers at the side, in a spare bedroom. We threw away another chest of drawers. So we threw away about £600 worth of furniture and then had to get it all back in. So that was that before Christmas. I was going, oh, I might take my missus' Christmas presents back. And then halfway through the week, I know it's petty, but the Wi-Fi went off, and because I do a lot of online classes, it's quite an important thing, especially for the podcast as well. And it's just like I was stressing because I'm trying to speak to Virgin Media through trying to work between it, and you're on the phone for like an hour and a half and stuff, and you're just like, oh my goodness, like this is you're getting stressed and anxious talking to them on the phone. And then yesterday, went out a run in the morning, came back in. It was pouring the rain, so I was, dirty up the back. I was wearing shorts, so my legs were bogging. And the house we moved into has got a prepaid meter. So it was like an old person was living in it before. So I think they used to, I mean, I don't know what it's like down in England, but in Scotland, I think old buddies like to have the prepaid meter because they get the card and they can walk to the post office and they can go to the newsagents, get their rolls, their bread, their milk and stuff, and top up their electricity meter, get them out the door and stuff. Hopefully that's not a stereotype, so don't get bad comments for that. But you kind of see that's their going out for the day, topping up their meters and stuff. And basically, so I put 50 quid on it, I think at the weekend. And I came back in, went to switch on all the stuff, thought the fuse was gone. And the £50 had completely cleared. So I went to work that day, like just, old Glasgow shiver, just deodorant either side, on. And then I had to speak to the British Gas people, and I'm just going, right, come on, what is going on here? Like this week has been, we're first back from lockdown, so the diary's super busy. Yeah. I'm trying to juggle all this while because my name is in all the accounts, so my wife can't phone up in my behalf. And I was just going, what is happening right now? So it's been this week's been a bit crazy, especially leading up to Christmas, because you're just thinking, come on, like just give me a wee Hail Mary here, mate, and just, let me have a smooth ride into Christmas. But like I say with my clients, life is going to throw us all these curveballs, whether we like it or not. And at the end of the day, we can always look up and go, why does this keep happening to me? Why me? And my fundamental response is always, see if this is beaten, you're going to feel the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything that comes in between, because what's the alternative? Mm-hmm. And you're going to go through the good, the rough and the smooth, and you can't just have all the good without the bad. So that was the sort of hiccups in terms of training. I said I was dealing with the posterior tibialis injury. Yeah, this week's been really, really positive again. Slowly making progress. Today was my first ever session. 1 mile warm up, 15 times 200 meters on the track with 200 meters jog recovery, 1 mile cool down. And I just done it as strides, didn't push it or anything. And feeling so grateful that we were just speaking about this before the podcast, where, you stop the watch and you're going, boy, I've got a long way to go. Like I've got a long way to go to get back to that marathon shape that I was once in. But if I look at that and go where I wanted to be 4 weeks ago, I'm going, this is amazing. Like I'm really grateful that I'm in this position and just
absolutely, yeah,
wrap myself up in cotton wool and just, making sure that I actually we were talking about celebrate these small wins in training. But yeah, that's been my week. Your weekend, how's your week gone with training?
I've done a little bit of running, not a huge amount, just because of injuries. But we had so I do some coaching for Purgy Performance. Very, very grateful to be able to have that opportunity through Adam and Charlotte, and and it's great. So we had this weekend we've got the Purgy Performance December challenge. So it's 3K or 5K. So I threw myself in, having come back from injury. This year's been pretty injury bound to be honest, but gave myself a target to get back with the group that I'm working with and supporting, and wanted to throw myself in and do the 5K, which I did this morning. So it was a shock to the system. I've done some sessions probably the last 4 or 5 weeks around what I hoped to have run. Didn't quite hit that, but I think for me it was just about getting out and enjoying it this morning, to be honest.
Mhm.
So I did that this morning early doors, and I feel pretty good about it now. So it's nice to got out, like you said, it's about celebrating the small wins, and that was a win for me just to kind of get a benchmark, something to work on in the new year as well.
That's it. And I feel, I don't know about yourself, but I do feel that human beings don't like to be tested. And what I mean by that is, so the time trial for the 5K or a 3K is a test. Standing on the scales, is a test in terms, like, it's knowing where you're at, knowing exactly where you're at this moment in time, so then we can take that benchmark and then move forward from there. But it's a really weird thing where people maybe move away from that testing and want to get better before then they get tested. And it's like, but what did
Yeah, that's
how,
an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it. I was wondering where you were going with that, but yeah, there's always that like wanting to kind of progress, isn't there? And part of that journey for me, I think with athletes as well, with runners, is I enjoy personally, and also with the people that I coach, I enjoy being able to just set some benchmark kind of, whether they're sessions or kind of time trials along the way, just to check in on where we're at from various different perspectives, like the faster running, or perhaps more sort of being able to hold a certain pace for a number of miles or something like that. But just being able to check in, I think, is important. And sometimes, sometimes people kind of just want to rock up at the race and see what happens. But I think it can actually bring a lot of confidence if you know where you're at, if you've checked in on some of kind of where the training's been going and what sessions you've been able to do, and compared that to perhaps what you were doing in the block just before that. Perhaps not like years and years ago, because that can get us disheartened if we've been, certainly for me, I'm not running anywhere near as much as what I was just because of injury. So I can get disheartened if I look back and think I was knocking Ks out at whatever time, or mile reps out at whatever pace. But relative to where I am now, just some check-ins, testing myself. I enjoy the challenge now, I think. I can understand what you mean. But I enjoy the challenge of thinking, where am I now? Like, well, how does this compare to roughly what I was feeling before? And there's lots of different variables. Like, life's busy, isn't it? So a lot of different variables. I always say, like, life impacts running impacts life. Like, I think we mentioned it last week. They don't come in isolation. So you might feel great one week, but have not had a hugely stressful day or week of work or whatever it might have been, and then the following week you could have all sorts going on. Like, if you've had a week that you've just had, and then you're trying to go and do a 5K time trial or a session similar to what you did a few weeks back, the session this week might not go as well, but you've still made some progress. But it's just because life outside of the running, in that 15 or 20 minutes that you're running and you're testing yourself for, has been pretty busy. So yeah, it's important to be aware of that as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And what we mentioned just off the record was that we don't need to make progress in terms of upping our mileage or running a TT or a session faster than the previous time. Mm-hmm. What we could do is just replicate the same thing. So we use the example of 8 times a kilometre off a minute recovery, and you're setting the athlete to run 3 minutes 10 seconds per K, and automatically, if we're getting set that session again, we want the average to maybe come to 307 and 305. We want to nudge even closer to that 3 minute barrier. But sometimes progress can be on just hitting 310s again and feeling, like you said, you said it being 8.5 or 9 out of 10 session. It actually comes down to a 7.5 out of 10 session. It's became more aerobic than anaerobic. And that's also a progress that's been made within your training program with the athletes. And I think that we're too eager to always want, so even when it's with clients on the scales as well, it's, some of my clients get pissed off when their weight has stayed the same. And I'm going, but it's, you've not went back the way. Like, you've stayed the same. So, but they always want to see something go down, go down, go down. And I was like, and it's the same as we get faster, the amount of effort that you have to put in to get that little bit faster becomes more and more and more. So the amount of effort you have to put in to lose weight becomes more and more and more. It becomes more extreme. So that the fact that people can either hit the same times or hit the same numbers in any retrospect is still, they're keeping on track. Like that means that they're still on track. They've not came off. They're still there. So I think that's what you were talking about earlier is a really important thing for athletes and just people day to day, to not always think that, if I go for a 3K run on Monday, I need to go for a 4K run on Tuesday, then I need to go for a 5K run on the Wednesday. And that's it's like, no, you could do, you can do a 3K and then maybe do the 3K a couple of days later, the same pace, and it feels easier. And you could do 3K again and run it faster.
Yeah.
I've always got this thing of like maybe sometimes more. And that's how ultimately I ended up injured. But it's
I've been there as well for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's trying to understand there's different ways to make progress, and whether it's the volume, the intensity, or the consistency of not being
It's how we measure the success of it, isn't it? I think that's it. You can easily measure success by numbers and by the tangible things we see. And don't get me wrong, we see like weeks stack up and consistency kind of build, but it's very easy to go, well, that's the same session as what I did a few weeks ago, or that's, that was a 5K run I did today, and I did that 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I haven't run quick, or even perhaps run a few seconds slower. But like I said, there could be a number of factors to that. But yeah, for me, like I really try and tune into, but how do I feel compared to before? And don't get me wrong, there's certainly times, like even recently, I can look back at a couple of sessions I've done and thought I was going to aim to run a certain time in those sessions. And then my ego got the better of me mid-session, and I kind of closed the session probably a bit too fast, or a bit faster than I should have done, because I just wanted to test myself a bit more. I wanted to see the number fall a little bit quicker. So so I think, but for me, like what I really try and stick to, and certainly when coming back from injury, and I've been there a lot of times with Achilles injuries that I've had, and I've had a long spell of injury over the last 8 or 10 years, really. And it's like seeing the progress in other ways, like measuring my progress by building some consistency, measuring my progress by just being able to continue to be out there and getting the sessions in. And sometimes they'll be similar in terms of paces and volume and all that kind of stuff. But actually the fact that I'm able to do another session means that I'm making some progress. Adam Clark told me before, he said, it's like laying bricks, like we're still laying bricks. You just lay another brick on the wall. And that's some progress there as well. So you're just gradually building that wall with that consistency.
That's it. Like I say the exact same to my clients. Like I say the session is the brick and the recovery runs as a cement. Now make sure you make the best quality of both, because if you have rubbish cement, meaning you don't do your recovery run properly, you run it too fast, then that's not going to be the best quality cement to stick the next brick together.
Yeah.
So that wall can get broken down very, very easy. So now it's, and I think that we probably both, the first person I heard that from was Will Smith, when he said about, when I get this brick and I'm going to put that down as perfect as I can, and then I put the next brick down next to it as perfect as I can. I think it was, he said him and his dad went to build a house together or something like that, and he was so overwhelmed. He's going, where do we even start, Dad? A brick in his hand. He went, we start with this. And this is really weird. I was speaking about this with my client yesterday, and if she's listening, she'll start laughing. And she's looking to do a duathlon, and run, bike, run, and she's just looking at the whole event, going, I don't know if I'm going to cope with this. And I'm going, well, we dissect it all the way back to these bricks that we put together, and before you know it, and I pointed to the gym wall and I said, before you know it, you're going to have something like this. I said, but when you look at that, you just get a bit overwhelmed. We just need to look at that one down in the corner there. We start there, we start going and building and building and building. So that's brilliant. That Clarky also has that step-by-step approach to not get overwhelmed. He's like I love Clarky to bits, man. He's a witty character, and very, very funny. And he likes to wind people up as well. But tell him, I don't that 2017 is 2020, big man. So he'll know what I'm talking about with that.
Okay.
I'm gonna get him some salt for Christmas.
I'll pass
Salty. Salty. But no, it's all good. It's all good. It's friendly banter. But no, I love what you guys are doing over there at Purdue Performance. You know, it's inspiring for me as well. Like as an online coach, it's super inspiring to see the team that you guys have built. The amount of great success you have had as a community. That's what, you know, hopefully all running coaches look to aspire and inspire to, you know, achieve a community set for them as well. So no, you're doing a lot of great things. And you're an athlete as well, a coach, sorry, as well as a, you know, positive mindset coach as well.
Yeah, lifestyle coach. Yeah. So as I mentioned last week, I'm a lifestyle coach and work with a number of athletes through TASS and also with the running side of things. It's as you know, we talked before about the training we've done together. I just love helping people. I just love being able to support people on their journeys and it's helping them get the best out of themselves, really. So yeah, fortunate enough with Adam and Charlotte to be able to do some athletics coaching or running coaching with them. And it's great. Like, yeah, it's great. We've got a good community. We've got, you know, a number of kind of small teams. Little Ross is there as well, Ross Skelton and Charlotte and Adam and Andrew as well. So it's great. Yeah, I mean, the guys they've built, like you said, a great community, but it just continues to grow and it's really positive. It's great. Adam's got some good things lined up in the next few months and stuff as well. So it's all exciting stuff.
That's brilliant. And you're speaking about TASS there, and then something that popped into my mind was, I don't know if you've done this with TASS. I think you might have. It was in the military sort of, and you posted on Instagram earlier this week about you doing some boxing. Was that, you know, was that a stress reliever? Was that just you're inquisitive about another sport, the demands of another sport? Like, how did that come about? You getting into boxing?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm fortunate enough again to be able to work with the Army boxing team and provide the lifestyle support there with a number of other practitioners. And yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it. Well, we're at the end of 2020 now, so that was 12 months ago when it finished. But earlier in 2019, we spoke about like kind of just experiencing what the sport was like a little bit, or experiencing the lifestyle of a boxer. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got to the summer and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to throw myself in here. I needed to, again, had gone through a spell of injury and I thought I need to get active anyway. Yeah. And what better way to do it than to go all in and just try and experience what it's like to be a boxer. So I kind of started September and there was a date in December. It was the 14th, around the 14th, 13th or 14th of December, when there's a army boxing event, and we set the date. Ideally, I'd have loved to have been able to box. That was something that we talked about, but that couldn't happen. It was always going to be a bit of a stretch, to be honest. But the big thing for me was the experience of the lifestyle and what it's like. So I literally went about 13 or so weeks. I went down from, I think, 66.6 kilos, and my aim was to make under 60 kilos essentially. So across 13 weeks, I worked out what my calories needed to be, and trained almost probably 2-3 times a day most days. Obviously had a bit of rest in there as well. Boxing training, cardio, lifting weights, and all of the mix that was in there. Really got structured on my diet as well. And it was just an incredible experience. I'd never done that before. So I threw myself in just to understand what it was like. I just wanted to know, like, what is it during that period, building up to a fight, building up to making weight? Because boxing, it's not just about kind of, from my experience anyway, it's not just about being able to turn up and fight. There's a whole process that goes into it, like there is with all sports in terms of the training. But it's the coach said this to me: the first battle is to make the scales for some people, depending on the weight you're making, and that can be challenging. Like, as we've spoke about before, all of the lifestyle elements that that come into just our day-to-day normal and what the weeks look like. It can be a challenge in itself. Like, some people might have kids, so they're having to kind of restrict or manage some distractions in terms of like food and sweets and chocolate and whatever the kids eat. There's always potentially food lying around, but then also managing like your social time as well, like being able to go out and spend some time with friends, but equally not overcommit on calories and stuff like that if you're making weight. So it was a really interesting experience. Yeah, it was good. I learned a lot. I got down to 59.6 in the end. I've never been that lean, but I was the fittest probably. Almost probably the fittest that I'd been. I was able to do a bit of running through that time as well. Did a lot on the rowing machine, and it was an interesting experience. Did a lot of boxing training, not as much as probably would have liked to, and obviously wasn't able to box at the end, but it was an incredible experience.
Yeah, and how did you feel, like 6 kilo, well, that'd be practically 6.5 kilograms, 2.2 a pound, 2.2 pounds per kilo. You're looking at, you've lost a stone.
Yeah.
How did that feel, the last couple of kilograms? Like, were you constantly hungry through the day, or was this like a progression that, you were able to sustain? Or how did you feel in those last last couple of kilos, trying to get them off?
Yeah, it was interesting because I had the plan. I think that's always key, to have a plan for how you're going to make the weight, and drop the weight that you need to. And so it was almost like 0.5 kilo a week that I needed to drop in order to do it kind of consistently. And I know some people, once you do it a few times, you could almost get to a few weeks out and perhaps, you could probably drop a bigger chunk and still be okay. But I wanted to do it consistently just to get a full experience and understand what it was like. So there was a point in probably about week 6, maybe. I remember being around 63 kilos, or I dropped to 63, or perhaps just under 63. And it was probably earlier than that, actually. I dropped a lot of weight in a short space of time early on. And I felt so weak because I dropped the weight really quickly. And I remember was due to do a rowing session that morning, which was like a top end rowing session. And like short efforts. And yeah, I struggled. I was so weak in the session. I couldn't hit what the numbers I was hitting before. Goes back to what we were talking about. And I really struggled. So it just gave me like an understanding that you've got to fuel. Like, another thing to consider when I was making that weight is fueling for training. You still got to get the best out of yourself, but obviously, or still got to be able to train optimally whilst making weight and doing that in a consistent manner. So yeah, when those last few kilos, I mean, I was probably about 61, 62 kilos when I used to run a lot more anyway. Yeah. So it's not like it's not completely unnatural weight for me. Being under 60 kilos is an unnatural weight, because I wasn't really ever there consistently, even when we were knocking out some good high mileage. But it was difficult. I was the last week or so, I was very, very conscious of how much I was eating, and I had to restrict the calories a little bit, but also trying to fuel as well, because even though I knew I wasn't boxing, I didn't want to kind of just like not do it. I wanted to make sure I finished the challenge, because I'd put a lot of hard work into it. So yeah, on that last day, then I was restricting myself from a little bit with the hydration as well, just to make sure that I didn't tip over onto 60.1, because I'd have been devastated. But it was great, really supported from the team and the coaches, and yeah, everybody. It was great.
So I've tinkered with playing about with my body weight, and because I'm a bit of a bigger distance athlete. And one thing that I felt when I was doing some calorie restricted eating was, could you get to sleep? See, when you get to a certain point in your weight loss program, I found it sometimes really hard to get to sleep, or I'd wake up in the middle of the night really hungry, and it was almost like, it's like if you need a pee in the middle of the night, it's not going to evaporate. Like, you need to go and get rid of it. So the same with the emptiness in the tummy. It almost like, if you kept rolling around and didn't sort of alleviate that hunger by maybe going to get a bowl of cereal or whatever, your body would eventually wake up in the middle of the night, say like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and because you tried to fight to get back to sleep with a hunger, I would just be awake from 4 o'clock, maybe 4:30 in the morning, and have to go all the way throughout the day. And that's where I think a lot of people like the general public don't see, because a lot of people will come to, myself or yourself, like for me, it'd be for, weight loss and be healthy, but some people might come to yourself for, well, when I'm running, I also want to lose a little bit of weight. I want to get to, a nice race weight to perform at my best. And it's almost like they go hand in hand. They want to lose weight and train super hard at the same time. And I go, pick one, because you're not going to be able to do the other. Like when you're going through one of the, because if you're training like a beast, you're going to eat like a beast to fuel the tank. And if you want to lose weight, you're not going to be able to train. You're going to need to make sure that you're going to be down regulating yourself. Like I'll talk about how, say, like MMA, UFC, boxers, bodybuilders, how they all feel in the last week leading up to a competition when they're all trying to strip down to their, skeleton,
yeah,
bone, muscle, and they're on the stepper or they're lifting and they're exhausted. And I think there's a misconception that people can, lose weight but still, be at their optimum, and then they come back to us and ask why they couldn't be bothered training today. They felt so exhausted, and you need to tell them, these processes why. Did you find that your sleep was affected by your calorie restriction?
it was a little bit. Yeah, it was a little bit. Probably more so towards the end.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a huge amount, but there was an impact on it, definitely. And I think because I was restricting calories to drop those last couple of kilos and training, still trying to keep the intensity up, even though you're tired, it was a challenge for sure. But I guess, like, if people have got those dual goals, then only speaking from experience, it's just about kind of getting a bit of a balance there. And like you said, understanding what is it that you really want to be going after, what is the real focus for you. Because like you said, if you want to be in tip top shape, like being able to perform it at the best you possibly could, then it's always going to be a challenge when you bring something else into that, like another variable into it. And it's being realistic, isn't it? Like that, if you can't compromise, then, or perhaps you have to try and compromise. If you can't choose, then you have to compromise and recognize that perhaps you won't achieve like the heights of what you might from a performance perspective. If you want to, if it is weight, there might be other things in there as well. If you're going to be having to focus on something else as well. So I think that's where it comes up with coaching. Like you just have those honest conversations, don't you?
Yeah. And that's leading on to the coaching. This podcast is on Strava, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything in between. And as coaches, have you had to chat to some athletes that you're coaching about the use of Strava, the use of Garmin Connect, and how to use it positively, the pitfalls of it? What's your thoughts on these running apps?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've not had to have too many conversations recently. Like I've coached a number of different athletes over the last few years, and Strava definitely comes up. So it definitely comes up. So one time there was an athlete who actually, he said, I just need to come off Strava completely because it's causing, he recognized, which was great, that it was causing a lot of stress, and that actually, the sessions to get loaded up, and then he was constantly looking to see perhaps who would like the session, how it compared to what other people might have done, getting really caught up in the numbers, which is okay. Everyone's individual. But from a personal perspective, talking from myself as an athlete, I really try and enjoy as well getting caught into or stuck into working out how I feel and basing things off feel, using the numbers and the data to kind of guide me, but trying not to get caught up too much in it. I think like it can be a bit of a vicious cycle. Like you've mentioned before about like even to the point of putting a session up and people liking it or segments getting beaten. I think they can be really positive and they can urge people on to give people something to focus on. Mm-hmm. But equally, it can become a bit of an obsession at times as well. And I talk from experience on that because I've been obsessed with the numbers, like, wanting to make sure on Strava, for example, like your mileage is, consistent or consistently building. And it's a bit annoying when it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a bit annoying when you have a down week and it ruins the it ruins like the image of what you see. But for me, like I've gone through that experience myself, and I think some people sometimes you have to just go through it, and some people have to go through it to recognize like what is really important to them. And actually, it might be that, you know, there might be some like kind of goals that you want to win your segment on your street or whatever it might be. But for me, it's just trying to engage with how do I feel on runs. Like I use my Garmin, I use my watch for runs because don't get me wrong, I like to see how I've compared to previous sessions, but I really do try not to get caught up in it too much. I just try and focus on how I feel. And that's always one thing that I try to ask myself after a session, actually. Even if I have like compared numbers from previous sessions, I'll always sort of not have a verbal conversation with myself, but just kind of reflect a little bit on thinking, how did I feel this week compared to last week? And that's like almost a measure of success for me. And I think for me, that's a more of a truer way to be able to gauge progress, because like we said, there's so many different variables that can get thrown into the mix, that there could be a reason why you didn't run as quick. Like you might have a session, the same session this week as you had last week. You didn't run as quick this week. You can be really disappointed. It can ruin your day. It can ruin your night. It can ruin your conversations with your wife or friends or whatever, because if you get caught up in it too much, and that might seem quite extreme even saying that, but you know, I've been there and I know people can get caught up in it, and perhaps not to that extent, but it can have an impact, can't it? So it's trying to strike the balance. I like to think data is great, use it to guide you, but don't let it kind of dictate the training and what you're doing. Like know what the goal is, know what you're trying to focus on, and why you're doing it.
And then what would you say your favorite app or metric is that you like to hone in on? Is there something on Garmin Connect or Strava that you'd say is quite beneficial for you that you use on a week to week or a daily basis?
Yeah, it's changed a little bit, I think, over probably the last couple of years. When I came back from an injury probably 18 months ago, Achilles injury, and I was working with like a podiatrist and working out my biomechanics essentially, and we started to look at like cadence and if I was loading the tendon in the right way. So I was doing some faster intervals, essentially, faster running, shorter efforts with a bit of recovery. So I was looking at cadence and looking at how many strides per minute and that kind of stuff, and then trying to not look at the how it related to pace, but that was my main focus. So that was kind of, then there was a real purpose for it. But again, I recognized that at times I'd get caught up in it, so I would just sort of relax and just try to let the flow happen and just enjoy the run and just try. And almost I would still focus on my cadence, but I wouldn't be looking at the number. And then I'd check it at the end of the session and think, actually, that felt like, you know, 180 strides per minute or whatever I was focusing on at the time. But it was actually, in reality, it was higher or lower. So it helped me kind of listen to my body a bit more and learn a bit more about whether I was getting a true reflection from my body or not, you know, what my impression of it was. So that was back then. But now, to be honest, it's more just like, I'll just engage with and look at the miles per hour pace and that kind of stuff. But again, not let it dictate. Just I try and still think, well, what am I feeling? Does it feel like an easy run? Because the pace is saying that it is easy, or it's a bit harder, but or it should be a bit harder. It should be a tempo effort, but does it feel comfortable? And should I be backing off, or am I, you know, what have I got on tomorrow? What's the session that I'm meant to be doing tomorrow or the day after? And do I need to kind of just ease things back a little bit to make sure I'm in a good place for that?
And do you ever allow, so this probably is a common topic as well with the Strava and Garmin apps, is do you ever allow, so when you're on a recovery run and say your Garmin bleeps and it's like 40-mile pace, and maybe that recovery run might average, say, 725-mile pace for the day. There's maybe athletes that don't like to upload that onto their Garmin because it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And because they feel that people will judge them on like, oh well, what was that? You know, that's a rubbish run, you know, because maybe they previously they ran a tempo run really, really quick, but now they're all of a sudden running, you know, say 77-25 mile pace or whatever it would be. They don't like that. Maybe it also felt hard to them. It felt hard to them. The people in Strava don't know that, but it felt a wee bit because the legs are tired from busting their hump. But they go, I'm not going to upload that because that's a slow run. Like people are going to think I'm unfit, and they delete it off. Or the reverse is that they will try and speed up and try and run a quicker average and negate the purpose of the training, which was a recovery run, now becomes a steady run after a hard trip. And now the chances of injury and burnout and fatigue have now climbed up exponentially because their egos get in the way of like what others will think of them.
Yeah.
During a run on Strava. Do you ever let that? Has it ever get into your head during training, and now do you have a lot more balanced approach with it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I think we think back now. I think there probably has been times when it could have got into my head, but like the world we live in is like it's very easy to look at external things, isn't it, for validation? And for me, I just try and come back to like, what's the purpose I'm doing it? And that's what I'd say to a lot of people, to everybody as well. Like, what's the purpose that you're doing that run? And if you'll sometimes, again, you've got to go through the experience. You'll know if you've run too hard and you've got a session the next day and that, you know, the run the day before was meant to be easy. Mm-hmm. You'll feel it. And you'll also be pretty disappointed if you pick up an injury because you do it too often. So yeah, just for me, it's like, it's understanding like what's the purpose of this easy run and what's that look like in terms of the training block that I'm trying to focus on. Because don't get me wrong, I do use kind of the Garmin watch and that kind of stuff, and you know, I put things on Strava, and it's very easy to get caught up in. But I also, if I was running a bit more, then I would certainly do this. I would just go out without a watch at times. But because I'm only running a little bit, for me, I like to just check back in on where I'm at and what I've done, and just be able to have a bit of a training log as well. I think for me, that's right. I used to write a lot of stuff down and I used to put it onto like an Excel sheet, but now it acts as a bit of a training log for me to look back on as well. So, but it can be a bit of a challenging thing for people, can't it? Because it's very easy to get caught up in it. Yeah, very easy.
But again, you've spoke about some positive. Like, I don't, you know, a lot of people can absolutely, you know, slate Strava in terms of how it pulls you out of your zone and your focus and your ego. It comes out and stuff, and you maybe want to win segments or be king of the mountain, or maybe there's maybe some elite athletes on it that you're looking at and going, geez, look at their tempo run, or, you know, look at their, you know, recovery pace and all these things. And we can also look at it in a positive light in terms of we can maybe use these apps and these devices as a positive, where, you know, maybe if there is somebody out there that's a little bit quicker than you, that it inspires you to one day be there, because maybe you look at them and go, well, they've got 2 arms and 2 legs and a beating heart and a set of lungs. If they can do it, why can I not? But understanding that it will take time, you can't just rock out of bed and maybe be where they are. Maybe differentiating between, usually what I find is that you're comparing apples and oranges. So somebody's looking at, say, an elite professional athlete's Strava and they're working full time. And, you know, it's like you've not got the same lifestyle as that other human being that you're trying to compare and be like, because you've got this, you're basically, if we talk about your battery in terms of like a phone, when you go to bed, you charge it back up and it goes green. But then throughout the day, if you're working, you're stressed, you get bills, you know, you've got a wife, you've got kids or a husband, partner, whatever it may be, your battery starts going into the yellow and into the orange and then into the red, but then you've still got to train on top of that.
Yeah.
Whereas pro athletes will be sitting in the green and then they'll come down into the yellow and the orange, and then maybe they can top themselves back up to 100%. Whereas people like myself and yourself who work a lot and, you know, are, building businesses and working with people on a daily basis who are not, professionally funded athletes, we may go to bed at 10% or 8% battery charge, and we can only get ourselves back up to 80 or 82%, and that's even with the best quality sleep. So then we need to work with that through the day to make sure we don't drain ourselves, and that's why sometimes we can be exhausted during the recovery run, or we can be exhausted even after. This is one of the worst ones, is like after a recovery day, you've ran easy and you go to your training session and you're still knackered. That messes with my head more than, because you're going, well, but I ran like, I ran 730-mile pace. I ran really easy. Like my heart rate was super low, but my legs are still like lead. Why? That, like, in terms of, that's probably one of the big expectation there. That's the expectation of thinking, well, if you've done 2 recovery days, then you should feel good on that third day. But the world doesn't work in, sort of just binary.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's exactly it, because you could have had a couple of recovery days between a session and another session, and if you still feel like you're struggling, then knocking it back another day isn't such a bad thing, because it's probably going to allow you to, 1, recover, and 2, you have a better session. So yeah, listening to your body is key, and that's why I think there's so many things that you can like track running and sessions and all the kind of the tech things out there. But just there's no, for me, perhaps it's a bit old school. I know I use the technology to some extent, but there's no better barometer than how you feel, and just engaging with actually like, what is it that what you're feeling on a tempo effort, and then comparing that, and really being in tune with your body and listening to your body. And if you need to rest, if you need another day, if you need a day off, then take the day off. Just because the week's set, like 7-day week or whatever it might be, and you're meant to be doing 2 sessions that week, it doesn't mean they have to happen. Like it's not, at the end of the week, if I haven't done that whole week, then it's the end of the world. Like the chances are that extra recovery day, if you've taken it, will mean that you can get another few weeks in before you have to have that planned recovery week again, or whatever it might be. So
yeah, and that's where trying to stay true to yourself and only focusing on what you're doing and what you have to do to execute the plan. Sometimes, like you said, like you might need to take an extra day off during that 7-day cycle or 10-day or 14-day cycle, and being okay with that, because at the end of the day, you'll probably have this conversation as well with athletes, is, on maybe a Tuesday and a Friday, or a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Saturday, depending on if people have three sessions a week or 2 sessions plus a long run. It's usually Tuesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Saturday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday long run, and it gets to Tuesday or it gets to Friday or whatever it may be, their legs are knackered, and you're going, well, either one, run easy today, 20, 30 minutes, just flush the rubbish out your legs. We'll go on Saturday if it's supposed to be Friday. Oh, but today, it's like your muscles don't have brains. They don't know what day it is. It's the signals we send from here into our central nervous system, into our muscles, into our peripheral nervous system, that we then create this great feeling or bad feeling through either doing or not doing. And it's going, no, like just relax. Like your muscles they're just going to exert force on any day that you give. They don't know whether it's Monday or Sunday. Don't hold an emotional attachment to any day of the week. It's all, just taking care of business. And like you're saying, if you need that rest day, if you take it, it's probably your chances of now getting injured, ill, or overtrained are now significant. The reason you're probably telling me you're tired, is probably because there's already alarm bells going off in your body saying, I'm not on it today. And when you're at that point, it's like, well, you've already made the decision up. You just need the coach to say, just chill. Chill.
Yeah.
And I think like apps, if we don't focus on ourselves and we do focus on these running apps, well, then if we did take a day off and then we see, somebody go and smash a session, it plays with this up here, our self-esteem, our self-worth, our confidence, thinking that's the athlete that maybe I want to, beat at a certain race, or all these, and then they go into this downward spiral in their head when they just need to hit the stop button and be like, focus on yourself and focus on what you need to do to get yourself to the start line as fresh as possible. Because like we were saying, Strava doesn't care about, how many segments you have. If you're a local hero, if you're king of the mountain, As soon as that gun goes off on race day, you better make sure you're in the good side of the clock, because the clock doesn't care about how good you are on Strava, and none of the athletes care about how good you are on Strava. They're there to whip your ass, and that's it. You know, and you can have all these segments and all these sections in the world, but ultimately, at the end of the day, when I say to an athlete, do you want a Strava section or do you want to perform well on race day? They always say they want to perform well on race day. So I go, stop thinking of that. Stop thinking of that. You maybe use it in a good way where maybe I like to, if my athletes are on Strava, then you can see what they're doing. You can see their mileage pace. You can see their session pace. You can see like brilliant work, great average, all these things. You can use it as you can use it as a good way to help athletes get better, because I don't want to just like rain on the negative sides. The good sides are that you can connect with your training partners, you can connect with your friends.
Yeah.
You can have a little bit of banter on there with maybe your friends, like, I'm the local hero or the king of the mountain or this. You can have a bit of banter, but as long as it's controlled and it doesn't get too, out of control, but also still making sure it doesn't take you out of your zone and it doesn't make you want to inflate your ego. And then for me, like the Garmin, I much prefer, like, since we're starting to speak about this, like I've actually, since being injured and doing my walk run stuff, putting that on Strava, I bet a lot of people will be looking at that and going, what the hell is Sean doing? Like 1 minute he's running, 6-minute mile pace, and then the next it's 13-minute mile pace, and people are looking in on that, and you're thinking, and it looks all, like you're saying, looks all messy. And I'm going, like, I don't really care what people, I don't really care what people think or what they, if they want to like it or they don't want to like it, if they want to. I really like Garmin, because I like the metrics. I used to use it really bad. And you'll know this, back in, say, 2013, 2014, all I wanted to see was triple figures. If I wasn't hitting triple figures, I was a worthless waste of space in my head. If I wasn't hitting 100 plus miles a week,
Yeah.
I wasn't going anywhere. And the reason for that, I think, is because the amount of talented athletes that are down in Teddington, it just, I came from just, when I went down to Teddington, I was I think I was like a 15:20 5K athlete. And when I left to go to America, I'd ran 14:06 and 29:16 for the 10K. But I'd done that through what I felt was absolute no talent and just working my face off every single day. And using Garmin in a toxic way, in terms of how many miles had I ran that week, how fast was I running. I was just so caught up in the numbers in a negative way. But now I feel like I'm a bit like yourself with that. I still wear the Garmin, because if I'm going out, like say an 8 mile, 10 mile, whatever run it would be, I like to just know that if I'm doing an out and back, 4 miles, 5 miles, 6 miles, right, time to turn back on the canal. Or if it's an easy run and my watch bleeps at, say, 7:45 pace, I'm like, I'm running easy. Like, this is good. And I'm never scared for that to go up on Strava, because I don't really care what anybody thinks about what I'm doing. The reason the reason I started Strava was because I genuinely thought I was going to run the previous Commonwealth Games time, which I think was 2:19:20 seconds for Scotland at Valencia last year. And I genuinely thought I was going to achieve that. But what I wanted to show people, I wanted to show them in a healthy way that I was doing big training sessions. So say like 22 times a K on, K off. So that would go up. But then the next day I was doing like an 8 mile run, and it maybe took me 62 minutes, which is say like maybe 7:40 pace. I would shuffle because I was so tired from the big session. And I would show all these easy runs, and that it's okay to run really easy and allow your body to recover. I was trying to use it in a positive way.
Yeah.
But I'd made a boo-boo by going on holiday 2 weeks before. Not on holiday in terms of like to, a piss up, but just to go warm weather training for a week. And I caught bronchitis in the plane, and I was gutted. But I went and, I went and done the marathon anyway. And halfway through, all the valves came off. But, I wanted to try and show people that don't be scared to run easy. And and be worried about what other people are thinking. But yeah, like now I use the stats, but I'm using them in a way of, I think I'm kind of wrapped myself in a sort of blanket now, because when I get back before that, I'd go, right, don't go any more. Don't go any more than 80 miles this week. Like, Sean, don't go above that, because when you keep reaching so fast, you've kept breaking down. So I was using it in a sort of a limiting way, which I thought was a healthier approach, making sure that I was running easy, wearing my heart rate monitor to make sure that I wasn't maybe running too hard in a tempo session, making sure that I was running at threshold, and it was. And then you're just talking about cadence. Because my injuries have always been lower limb, whether it's calf, soleus, or Achilles, I was thinking maybe I'm spending too much time with my foot on the ground. So maybe I just need to up the ante there. But I remember one of the guys, Craig Ruddy, he put the cadence bleeper on my watch. So he set it to like 175 or 177, and it would ring. Your watch would like vibrate and ring if you went below 177. And I had it on an easy run after the training session, and I was going, get this off my, I wanted to throw the watch away, because during an easy run, like, you're shuffling, you want to chill, you want to relax, like you're saying, you pay attention to it when you need to pay attention to it. But then when you're running easy, like when you're running slow, your cadence is always altered, your cycle's low, your gait cycle is a lot longer, you've got bigger angles, so you spend more time on the ground. So it's you're absolutely right to like, these things are all okay, just if we use them in a positive way and not let them take us out our zone, and we sort of use our ego to try and show how great we are during training. We want to show how great we are come race day. That's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I completely agree. That's the key thing, isn't it? It's so easy to get caught up in that kind of stuff. And like I said, I've certainly done that in the past myself, and now it's just there as a tool that is. I think that what you mentioned about the like being able to link in with other people and friends and community, that's great, because I think it has a positive impact on people just generally. I'm talking from experience, like knowing that other people are out running perhaps, or doing something. If it's like the Purdue Performance 5K, for example, knowing that other people are doing it, you want to check in, like you feel part of something. I think that has a positive impact. And certainly like in a year like we've had, feeling isolated has been, a common theme for a lot of people. So things like Strava, for example, can be really useful for that, can't it? And I think is a great tool for logging training and stuff like that. Absolutely. And it's just knowing like what your personal goals are, what your purpose is. Like when you were talking then about the reason that you were putting stuff on Strava was really interesting, like around building up to the marathon, because like you had a clear purpose, didn't you? Like you knew why you were doing it, and whether people engaged with it or not, like you felt purposeful to be able to show people a part of your journey. And I think, a lot of things or for me, I love people telling stories. That like I love listening to people's stories, and that's why I listen to a lot of podcasts or read some stuff, read a lot of stuff, because I love seeing the journey people have gone on to get to where they are, because it doesn't just happen overnight. Like success takes a long time to build, doesn't it? And so that's a great example of it can be really positive, and you wanted to put some positive stuff out there. Obviously it didn't end the way you would have liked it to end, but again, you're being kind of realistic and honest about it now, and knowing why that perhaps didn't happen. So yeah, you used it in a really good way, and I think it can be. It can be a challenging tool to use as well sometimes if you get caught up in all the data. I'm just a bit old school with that. Like I said, I do use the Garmin and all of that kind of stuff now, and I log stuff online, but I just love getting out and just feeling good. Like that's why I run. Like years ago, it would have been because of external things, or wanting to run certain times, and I'd love to run certain times still. But for me now, the real reason why I get out the door, or why I'm kind of dying to get out the door more, even though I can't at the moment because of injuries and stuff like that, is because I just love to get out and feel good. Like it has a really positive impact on my day. It has a positive impact in other areas of my life, and so for me, that's my purpose.
Yeah. So you are, again, I guess like getting that adulation on a running app is an outcome, and what you want to do is you just want to be immersed in the process.
Yeah, yeah, I love the process, man. I get a few of my mates talk to me. They say to me, "Oh, process." But I do love it. I think just getting stuck into it is for me. I like the whole process of training and the day-to-day stuff. Like the outcome at the end is great, and yeah, getting a little bit of kudos at the end. I think that's what they call the Strava, isn't it? Kudos or um like likes, whatever. That's all like external, but I can't control any of that. And if I'm honest, I don't care too much for it. It's
Yeah.
more like, am I doing what I feel is right, um, and approaching, applying myself in the right way that is relevant to me, because the right way to me might be different to somebody else. Everyone's individual. Managing what I've got to manage day to day,
Mhm.
whilst being able to kind of focus on some of those kind of athletic goals that I have as well.
Yeah, mate, honestly, like I mean, if we can literally, if we round this all the way back up to the start, right, and we just go the way you talk and the way you're going about your running and about the way you're going about your day-to-day life is by brick.
Yeah, it's a great way. That is essentially it. Yeah. There are these things that like I want to achieve, I guess, but
Aye,
it's getting, yeah, there are those bigger picture things, but none of it happens without laying the bricks. To Clarky's point, none of that happens without putting the cement in there to make sure that it sticks as well, and continually being able to build and build consistency and and just live a positive life, or live in a good way. So I know that'll be different for different people, but yeah, it's immersing myself in the process for sure, and
yeah,
laying the bricks definitely.
yeah, like you know, that's something that you've, whether you noticed it back in the day or not, like that's something that you've always done super well since we've known each other, is day by day, not worrying about what happened yesterday if it didn't go well, or not worrying about may happen tomorrow if it's a big crazy hard session. You've always immersed yourself in, what have I got to do today? Right, if we go out to run, if it's on a Sunday, it has to be this, and it's at this pace. The reason being because we've got this big session on Tuesday, so let's not try and compete and see how good everybody's Sunday long run is. Let's make sure the key sessions are ticked properly, and these are all just part of the puzzle. And that's something, and I think this is also why people are enjoying listening to your advice and us having this discussion, this podcast, is because I think that you put, including myself, into when we ran together, a better frame of mind. So if my ego was going off the chain, as soon as I started chatting to you, or we linked up for a run or a coffee, I could calm myself down. I'd walk away and I'd be able to take a nice big deep breath and you're all right, mate. You're doing all right,
That's nice to hear, mate. Yeah, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
I never really realised that it kind of had that impact, but it's nice to hear that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, because my physio, Scott McCauley, he even said when I saw him yesterday, the conversation we had with each other in the physio 3 weeks ago is a lot different to the conversation we had yesterday. And he listened to the podcast as well. He loved it. And he said that podcast was not just as much a podcast to go out to Luke's audience, to go out to my audience, a therapy session for the audience. It was almost like, Sean, you were going through you were taking me through a journey as well. So it's
amazing.
Yeah. So I was like, I think you're right. I asked him a few questions, but like, when I said when I wanted to, why did I want to quit and all that sort of stuff, and you're saying because you're so immersed in the past instead of thinking about the present and things. So you do really help shape people's minds in a more positive light. So I think listeners, again, like, please, reach out to Luke, reach out to me, let me know what you thought of today's podcast. Luke's also put me in contact with another one of my great friends back in Terrington, and another great athlete, Mr. Josh Trigwell. I've
Absolutely.
reached out to him. We're gonna do a wee Christmas podcast together. I might put a Santa Claus hat on or whatever. But again, he's got a great mind like yourself. When we sat down and had coffees together, I, I think I mean, I love being in Glasgow. I love the Fontana Fit business. I can't believe it's grown to the heights and the depths that it has. But one thing that I will say is the people I had around me in Terrington in terms of athletes. That my environment was a lot different. I'm up here in the trenches on my own. Nobody to train with, in terms of like readily available. It was easy to text yourself or text Clarkey, Vernon, Josh. Just anybody. The environment was spectacular, and to be around those like-minded individuals that are reaching for great heights, but also understanding that we've got to take care of today first and don't worry about those things, kept me and my ego and my could say my aggression towards training. It kept a lid on it. So that's something that you don't, when you're in the moment, you don't really think about it until you're going, do you know what, like that was some people might have looked at that as an unhealthy environment because they're always competing with everybody around Terrington and stuff. But for others, they would maybe use it, again, like the way running apps are, they may be using a positive light and bouncing that positive currency off of each other.
Sure, yeah.
And that's something that I really do miss from not being down there. If I could get you guys all up to Glasgow while still running Benefit, it would be lush. But it's but this sort of stuff here, it's spot on. Like, it not only does it just help the listeners, but it also boosts boosts Maddie, boosts me, also boosts little Simbi down there as well. Where is he? Look at him.
Sleeping.
But he's my wee world as well. He keeps me, when things are, when bombs are flying and bullets are flying in my mind, when I see him, it just instantly smile on my face.
It's amazing, yeah, absolutely.
Do you have pets? Do you have pets?
No, I haven't got any pets, no.
Are you thinking about having a pet, like a cat or a dog?
I mentioned last week, I'd love a dog. I'd love a dog at some point, yeah, for sure.
What breeds? Just any, or a specific?
Yeah, my parents used to have a boxer dog, so I'd love a boxer dog, but I probably need to run that by Mel first. but just on a note on Josh, you mentioned that you're going to get him on. I think I had a great conversation with him last week, and he's an incredible person. Great approach to training, great approach just to life in general. Wants to just help people be better people. Which, if we can help people be better people, then hopefully that means that'll fold into the other areas of their lives as well. So yeah, that'll be great to listen to that as well.
Yeah, and because like what I was saying about the currency thing there, where you're like making people be better people. Do you ever think of when you have a conversation with somebody, like an emotional transaction, where so if somebody's positive, they actually give you the emotional currency into your bank, so your bank balance goes up, your positivity goes up, and then if there's somebody who's negative in your environment and takes money, emotional currency out of your bank and sort of lowers that transactional energy, do you look at it as that, or what's your thoughts on that sort of thing? Because when we talk, I feel like we both give each other money into the bank, and then also to the listeners an emotional currency boost, so their bank balance goes up.
Yeah,
in their mind and their emotional status. How do you go about like sort of setting up your environment? This might be we've went off in a wee tangent before but how do you set up your environment for that sort of emotional success?
Yeah, it's a great question. That is, a sports psychologist said to me actually, and used this with athletes. She talked about like drainers and radiators, like who heats you up and who kind of drains the energy away. And who gives you that energy. So yeah, I mean, for example, like these conversations are great, and I've always enjoyed us chatting, and I certainly feel that energy and that buzz. And we could go on for hours. I know we've gone on for ages now, but it's good conversation.
Yeah.
And the same the conversation with Josh last week. I came away from that feeling really positive and feeling really connected, and it was really, really good. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of people in my life that they do bring that positive vibe to me, and I bounce off them. And you can kind of see it when I've had a lot of calls over lockdown, and when you're on Zoom Zoom can be like quite draining at times. And these calls over lockdown, I know when there's a good energy kind of in the room, so to speak, because like I'm just getting really passionate, and I can think back to a couple of people that definitely have that impact. So in terms of setting up my environment, I mean, my wife's incredible. Like she's amazing, gives me that positive energy. I think it goes back to something we talked about last week. Managing your support network is
Yeah,
really key, and just being aware of who brings the energy, but perhaps those that don't bring that as much of that positive energy. Even just asking the question of perhaps what's going on with them at that time can help bring them out of it as well, and help move them forward in where they're at, because sometimes it's not an intentional thing. Most of the time, it's probably not an intentional thing that there's someone sort of draining that energy, but there could be something going on. So it's just kind of being socially sensitive to that.
mate. I think, there is absolutely smashing. Just making sure that you're just giving that positive vibe to people, and making sure we're all bringing each other up together is it's great that you've said that. And yeah, mate, again, spending, I know maybe I've went a wee bit longer than last time, but I think that listeners are going to get value from every second, every minute of the podcast. And again, absolutely amazing to have you back on. Thank you for giving us your time. To my listeners, please, go and search, Luke Allen, the TASS, again, if you want some lifestyle coaching from Luke, send him a message through Instagram, send him a message through Facebook. I'll put all those details again in the links below. But honestly, if you're feeling pumped from just this podcast and the last podcast, then maybe this is a guy that you want to have in your life more. Especially myself, I want to have him in my life more. And yeah, reach out to him and just, send him a message. If you get any, queries or questions, I'm sure Luke's going to be there to just, give you as much guidance as possible, and help coach you through anything that you're going through. So, mate, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on again, mate. I appreciate it.
No worries. You take care.
Cheers, mate.